Hey guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So as the title of this video says, in this video I'm going to be talking about my Cambridge application. So the process, how it went, how I felt, and the end result. So I sent my application in on the 14th of October. The deadline was the 50th, so I did leave it really late. I think the reason why I left it so late was because I was worried about my personal statement. In my mind, I had this idea that a Cambridge personal statement had to be a certain way. It had to sort of fit this rigid structure, in the sense that it had to talk about all these books that I'd read, how I felt about these books, and how they related to the course. And my personal statement, it wasn't like that at all. It was more talking about my achievements, why I thought I was suited to the course, how I felt that I'd shown that, and why I was a good student to give an offer to. So I think for the first week of October, I was sort of debating whether or not to send my application in. And I think my mum and my sixth form college really helped me in understanding, well, I didn't really have any other university I particularly wanted to apply to, so I should just give a shot to Cambridge and just see if maybe something positive could come out of it. So I did, and I sent the application in. About a month later, I got an email from one of the colleges in Cambridge saying that I was invited for an interview. And so I was definitely very excited. I think I spent the first 5 minutes running around the house like, oh my god, I've got an interview. Oh my god, I'm going to Cambridge. I think after that initial 10 minutes came the stress and came the worry. And so I think I spent the whole, from the beginning of November to the interview, which was around December the 17th, practicing. So I did as many mock interviews I could with anyone who would listen to me. I read over my whole personal statement, make sure I'd done everything I talked about in my personal statement, read every book. I just generally wanted to make sure that I could answer any question that they could ask me. So when the time for interview came, I had to go to Cambridge the night before. Because I lived around 6-7 hours away, there was no way I could get to my interview on time if I left on the same day. I'd have to leave at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I went the night before, and I think what was so good about that was that I got to experience what life would be like in Cambridge. And I can't fault Cambridge as a city. It's honestly great. You have this mix of all these old university buildings next to these brand new sort of like shopping centres and buildings, and it's just generally a beautiful city, and it mixes really well. There's places to go and relax as well as places more vibrant. So I definitely loved Cambridge, and it kind of made me want to study university more. But the night before my interview, I was definitely very stressed. I think my stress level was about 100%. I don't think I slept very long that night. I was just thinking of all the things that could go wrong. I was thinking in my mind, I'm going to like trip walking into the room. I'm going to say something completely wrong. I'm going to fall off the chair. My mind was just going crazy. In the morning, I didn't go to have breakfast at the university because they did offer breakfast, but I was just like, there's going to be everyone there. I just need time alone just to clear my mind and prepare myself for the interview. So I went to like a local breakfast place and just sort of ate there. After that, I went to the university and I asked if there was anywhere I could just sort of like any quiet area where I could read over my personal statement, prepare myself. They showed me to this room. I think that was the worst idea I ever came up with because every person who was applying to that college was there. And I was just looking at them thinking they're in these suits, they've got all these massive books, and I'm just here with my little tiny book and a jumper. Why am I here? This is not for me. And so that stressed me out. But then slowly they started leaving and I just got concentrated on my work. Before my interviews, I had this sort of entrance test. So they gave me 3 questions, but you didn't need knowledge for these questions. It's more about understanding your reasoning. So the question I answered was about governments and should the government be run by experts. And it just said discuss. So I think they really wanted to see, well, can you think? How do you reason? Are your arguments clear? and I have an hour to answer it. And I think for that went quite well. I think the A-levels essay practice sort of prepared me for that. I knew how to write in time conditions and how to make my arguments clear. So I was happy about that. Straight after that, I had to go to my first interview. So before that interview, I got given a piece of legislation, which I think was about 2 pages long. I mean, there were little paragraphs. It wasn't masses. And about half an hour to read over it. So in that half an hour, I made annotations. There was a few questions at the bottom, which I sort of answered in my head, wrote down a few little notes. And I was generally thinking about any other questions they could ask me on this piece of legislation, because that interview would only be on this piece of legislation and on that piece of law, and the questions would be surrounded around that, not about my personal statement. So I had half an hour, and then I got taken to this waiting room. And then so they said, oh, your interviewers will come pick you up soon. I think my stress level at this point was past 100. It was in the thousands. I was thinking, oh my God, this is happening. So then my interviewer came in, and he was very nice. He seemed relaxed. And so he said, oh, come to this room. And so I went to this room, and there was another woman there. And so I don't know if I'm allowed to say any of the questions they asked me, so I'm not going to, but I'm just going to talk about the general feeling. I think the interviewers, they were very calm. They were very nice. They smiled, and it made me feel more relaxed. I think the questions, they weren't difficult, but they definitely tested your way of thinking and how you can think on the spot. And I think, well, my biggest problem was when I went into this interview, I was in my mind thinking this is a test and I have to have the right answer. And I think that was the wrong approach to have. I think when you go into this interview, you need to think this is sort of more of an educational exercise. These are 2 people, and we're just talking about this piece of legislation, talking about how it affects everything else, and talking about its limitations and its problems. And there's no right answer. I think if you go into the interview thinking this is just a discussion, this is sort of an educational discussion, and if you leave the interview feeling like you've learned something, I think that's really positive. I think if you go in thinking that it's a test, which you have to answer perfectly to, I think that's when it can go quite wrong. I think that was my biggest problem. I did go in thinking this is a test, I have to have the perfect answers, I have to be the perfect student. So after that first interview, I think I felt more calm. I thought, well, I know how interviews go now. So I had 15 minutes before my next interview started. This interview was on my personal statement, so I didn't have to read anything prior to it. I just went straight to that waiting room, and the interviewer came to pick me up and took me to this other room where there was another person. This interview was on my personal statement, so they asked me about things I'd written, and in my personal statement I'd written about how euthanasia and the right to life and to die was more important than anything else, and basically the state shouldn't be able to interfere. And so they really picked up on that. They were talking about, well, why do you think that? And I was thinking, well, the right to life is a fundamental right. They were like, well, why is it fundamental? What do you think is fundamental about it? What else is fundamental? So the questions went from that. And I think in the questions in there, it made me think about what I was saying. They really want to question how you think. And I think if you explain and you talk out loud about all your explanations and your thought process, I think that's a good strategy, because it helps you prepare in your mind and it explains generally how you're thinking. And I think that's what they want to see. I was definitely really stressed in that interview, because unlike the first one where I had the legislation and there were some questions and I could sort of guess what they were going to ask me, in this one I had no idea. So after the first interview, after that interview I felt went quite badly. So I went out and I went to my mum, who had come to pick me up, and I was just saying, this isn't very positive. I don't think I've done very well. And so you don't hear back from Cambridge till January for me it was January the 15th. So from the time of my interview to finding out, it was a difficult period of time for me. I was just questioning everything I said, thinking, was this good enough? I was reading online about how other people's interviews went, and I just thought, they look 10 times better, their answers seem 10 times better. Mine were just terrible. And so that was very stressful for me. And I got my email on the 15th, was it the 15th? 15th of January, saying that I didn't get an offer. And well, I think I was ill actually in that week. I had the flu. So I think initially I was too worried about being ill to think about the rejection. And so I didn't really have an impact on me. Once I'd recovered, I think that's when it hit me. And I think the problem with the rejection is that it kind of made me question my capabilities. And I thought, well, am I good enough? Am I even good enough to study law? Why am I even applying to universities? And I think it was definitely a really difficult time because I felt kind of worthless. I kind of thought, well, I'm not the best, and I spent my whole life working on my education, and I felt like I was doing well, and having this rejection from Cambridge made me feel like, well, am I really doing well? And so it was difficult, and I went through this period of sort of like, I don't care, to suddenly caring and tears and everything. And I don't think that's a dramatic reaction to have. I do think rejection of any kind is difficult, and especially when it's from Cambridge, from a university, it is difficult. And some of my other friends had gotten a place, which kind of made it worse, because they were all party celebrating, and I was just here like, I didn't get a place. And I think it took me about 2 weeks before I felt okay with it, and I could sort of talk to people about it, and I wasn't in tears every time I thought about Cambridge. I mean, every time I hear the word Cambridge or I see it anywhere, it definitely brings back, it's like a scar now. Every time I hear about it, it kind of brings back these sad feelings, but it's then nowhere near as bad as they were in that first 2 weeks. So I had my other university had all gone back to me. They'd given me offers, so I was like, that kind of helped as well. But I think it's important to remember that it has nothing to do with your ability. I think the Cambridge application, it's hard to explain. I mean, I still don't really understand it. I just want you to know, if you've been rejected, or if you've got an offer, then you're great. Go there, you'll have a great time. If you haven't, I just want you to remember that you're worth it. You're good enough. Even if you didn't get an interview, at least you had the grades to apply. And I just want you to remember that you will be successful in whatever you do. I mean, and it will get better after rejection. At this point, I'm about a month after my rejection, and I feel okay. I mean, there'll definitely be a bit of resentment, sad feelings, however you're going to feel about it, but just remember that things get better. You'll be fine. You'll go to another university which will be great and that you'll love. And I mean, I know at the moment it does sort of feel like Cambridge or Oxford, whichever you're applying to, is this sort of be-all, end-all. It's where you need to be if you want to be successful. And sort of like the truth, that's not really the truth. I think whichever university you go to, you'll make the most out of it. And if you're the type of person who's dedicated, I think wherever you get your degree and wherever you get it in, you can be successful, and you can be as successful as someone who went to Cambridge. I think if any advice I would give to someone who is going to the interview is just relax. Don't see it as a test. See it as, like I explained, as sort of like just a discussion, as you're just showing them why you're capable of studying at Cambridge and why you're so great, because you are all great, and if you have applied to Cambridge, it means that you can probably you're worth it and you can get a place because you have the predicted grades, you have the good personal statement. So just generally don't worry about it. If you're going for an interview, it will be fine. If you've been rejected, it will be fine as well. You'll get over it. It will be difficult. It's still difficult for me, but I know that when I go to my university, which I think I'm going to Bristol now, Bristol or Warwick, I know that I'll have a great time. I'll meet friends and I'll leave forgetting about Cambridge, forgetting it even existed, and just generally doing the best I can in my life. And I know that it will be the same for anyone who has been accepted, rejected, or even thinking of applying to Cambridge or Oxford. I know that you will all do great. So this is kind of the end of the video. If you have any questions, anything you want to ask, feel free to make a comment or just message me. I'll always answer. And well, thank you very much for watching the video, and I hope everything in your life goes really well. Thank you.